This episode of Fans Talk Pro Wrestling Podcast has been brought to you by our friends in the Squared Circle of Trust. You can become a member today to access exclusive content as well as early access to content just like this. Head on over to fanstalkprowrestling.com, click the big green button, and support us by pledging a few dollars a month.
Beard!
From the Fans Talk Podcast family at fanstalkpodcast.com, this is episode 296 of Fans Talk Pro Wrestling, and on this episode, we are going to preview NXT Takeover London, which happens really soon, Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. Way too early for a majority of us to watch because we may or may not work day jobs. But anyways, my name is Garvin. With us tonight is Nick. Say hello, Nick.
I think I had to say it, but I've gotten hyped for this preview. I didn't get hyped. I stayed hyped.
Oh.
Is that how that works?
I don't know, because I thought you were just getting hyped. I didn't realize that you've always been hyped. That wasn't made clear. So those are like two contradictory statements.
I'm new to Mojo.
Yeah. And also with us is Joe. Say hello, Joe.
It's really amazing that you're so hyped when you're talking like this.
I hide it really well.
And I really hope that anybody listening to this manages to get this in if they're watching NXT London, Takeover London live, because, man, you don't got much time. You better listen. Even if you got to crank it to double speed, man, give us a listen, then watch the show.
Yeah, I might release this before 295. How crazy would that be?
So is this 296? We haven't discussed this yet. 295B?
Ooh, no, definitely a different number.
295B megs?
My brain hurts.
No, I do like that. The beanbag episode. Also with us is Squared Circle of Trust member Steven. Say hello, Steven.
Hi there. At least this pay-per-view I'll be able to watch live and not at stupid o'clock in the morning.
Whatever. I mean, it's 3 p.m. for us, so it's like the middle of the day before we've even gotten home from work, and that's crazy. Crazy talk. But at least it's not like 10 o'clock in the morning or something obscene like it was whenever the Japan show was. I can't even remember like what time of day.
That was like 5 a.m.
Yeah, that was dumb. That was dumb. But anyways, let's get right into it. Well, actually, before we get into it, NXT Takeover London, that's what we're going to be previewing. The card right now is Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe in your main event for the NXT Championship. The Women's Championship is also on the line as Bayley defends against Nia Jax. The Tag Team Championships are being defended as Dash and Dawson go up against Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy. Baron Corbin versus Apollo Crews is also on the card, as well as Asuka versus Emma. But before we preview that and give our predictions, let's talk about what happened this week. We had Enzo and Cass defeating pretty much a no-name tag team. Nick, you might disagree, but I really didn't know who these guys were. We also saw Asuka going against another debut, or at least a new name for someone, in Deonna Purrazzo. The Hype Bros defeated Banff. Bayley defeated Peyton Royce, and Samoa Joe and Baron Corbin defeated Finn Balor and Apollo Crews in your main event. Nick, what was your favorite part about this week's NXT?
I was highly intrigued by Bayley and Peyton. Peyton is kind of debuting a new character that just introducing the serpentine motions into everything she's doing. It's really interesting, and I think it needs more polish, but I think he's got something there. And the match itself, great. I haven't really ranked Peyton as one of the better wrestlers in the women's division down there, but I mean, she keeps putting on matches like this. I really wouldn't say no to having her get a title shot at some point.
Okay. Joe, what about you? What did you like about NXT this week?
This week, I actually did enjoy Enzo and Cass and Hollis and Skylar. I'm liking the new ferocity out of Enzo and Cass, and it's really getting me excited for them. I'm very excited to see what they're going to do, and if they're going to end up taking those NXT tag team titles and maybe come up to the main roster. I'm just really excited for them to get on a bigger stage. They've got the gimmick. Cass has the mic work. Cassidy's he's ramping right up there, but they've both got the ability. They're playing their roles extremely well in their tag team. I love the talk that, they're a family, and you try to take out a member of my family, you're going to get fucked up, for lack of better phrasing. I'm not to steal it from the Hype Bros, but man, I am really hyped for Enzo and Cass.
Yeah, just the new energy is such a good change. While I do appreciate the characters, I do appreciate the entrances for these two guys and how they handle themselves on the mic and in segments. Just to see this, really, angry side to them is a nice additional dynamic to it. Because up to this point, I think we've all been like, I cannot wait till they put the titles on Enzo and Cass, or, Enzo and Cass, they deserve to have the titles, because they've been there so long, or because that's how storylines seem to be flowing. But, it never really seemed like that was the major focus for them. So, I mean, they might have said, yeah, we want to be tag team champions, but it never seemed like they were totally taking it seriously. Now they're angry. They want that vengeance, but they also want to take what means the most to Dash and Dawson, and that's those titles. So yeah, I'm with you guys. I think Enzo and Cass are the legit tag team as we move forward. Does that guarantee them to win at TakeOver? No, not necessarily, but I think it's a move in the right direction. So, as far as an NXT episode, I noticed that I really didn't take a whole lot of notes this show. Normally when I'm watching, when it comes to NXT, I'm writing down every match and just like a bullet point or two of things that I want to remember to say to you. But this week I really didn't do that. I talked about Enzo and Cass, their new energy, but everything else seemed to be kind of, maybe filler's not the right word, but it did seem in at least in NXT terms, this was a filler show.
I don't know. Samoa Joe choked out Finn Balor yet again.
Yeah, and that is something that Ishmael in the live chat was very pleased with. I thought that main event was very good, but everything else like in the middle was just kind of it was just kind of there. Like, yeah, we saw some good stuff from Asuka, some good stuff from the Hype Bros, Bayley as well, but I don't know. It just seemed like you had two really positive things happening. Enzo and Cass getting that, great victory and that great energy. The main event with those two matches being built up very well, and then everything else was just kind of lame in NXT terms, at least.
I wouldn't go that far. I think it's more the same doesn't translate to lame. It is interesting to note that the Hype Bros finally seem to have gotten some traction. They're finally getting crowd support. And I don't really know why that is. I haven't really seen a change in their chemistry or even any real improvement in how they wrestle matches. I don't really know why it is, but even I am starting to kind of enjoy what Mojo's doing as part of the Hype Bros.
Do you think it has anything to do with Breaking Point? Or Breaking Ground, I mean? The fact that they recently focused in on what the fuck, Mojo for a little bit? Like, you got a better look at him to understand him a little more?
Me personally, no, just because I haven't seen anything past that first episode, and they barely touched on Mojo except in passing. With the NXT crowd, it would depend on when this episode was taped, I think, just because I would doubt it if it's, kind of concurrent with how Breaking Ground has been released. I couldn't say for sure, but I don't know.
Okay. I mean, it was just an idea. But thinking more about it, I mean, maybe it's those are the hype bros are just giving the crowd something else to chant. They can eyesight it up. That seems to be the big complaint in the IWC about NXT now, because you got to have something to complain about.
Well, the NXT crowd has gotten to be a legitimate gripe. Hey, we want some Bayley chants. That's a dumb chant to begin with. You want Bayley? All right, she's out there. Shut up and pay attention to the match.
Yeah, that works. That works. I think it's a great chant when you're waiting for her to come out.
Yeah.
After that, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, and the same applies to the new, hey, we want some Mojo chants. All right, Mojo's in the ring, and it's funny watching him dance and start off the match, but get a little more original. Take some cues from the UK audiences that we've been seeing clips from. Well,
then again, the UK audience is the one that we can credit. The Izod crowd, the ones that were chanting, at least on the main roster for the announcers. So maybe the UK crowd is not who we want to actually,
I'm not talking about the assholes that go to watch Raw. I'm talking about the guys that have been going to the NXT shows that have been airing recently. Watch some of the clips that the WWE has actually been reposting, just chanting for 10 minutes straight for Gable and Jordan. It's the same chant, but they went for 10 fucking minutes. I mean, that's insane to me. And the way that Blake and Murphy just were furious about it, just the way they kept yelling at the crowd, that's enjoyable to me.
So other people's pain is enjoyable to you, Nick?
If it's a bad guys, yes, very much so.
Okay. Don't die here.
Yeah, one final note about the Hype Bros. Say whatever you will about the gimmick, how they wrestle the matches, but the Hype Rider is a freaking sweet tag team finisher.
I agree. Yeah, I mean, overall, the team is growing on me. Now that they've got the general crowd support, I'm more apt to allowing that to continue to progress, like for them to continue to get that focus. But when I look at, what we got from Enzo and Cass and the good stuff that we've been seeing from Dash and Dawson, I don't know if I have the Hype Bros up there. I mean, I almost, knowing what we know about Zack Ryder and knowing our feelings about Mojo previous to this, I still don't look at them as a legit tag team, especially when you have Chad Gable and Jason Jordan right there as well.
Oh, absolutely. They're still at the lower end of the totem pole for me. But again, like I said, they do seem to finally be getting some traction. Maybe if they keep doing what they're doing and just keep tightening things up, adding a little more polish to their routine, maybe. And maybe it will take the call up of a couple of the better tag teams like Jason and Jordan, like the Vaudevillains, but maybe they will end up getting there.
No, and that's it. I mean, you would have to eliminate some people for that to take place. Like, look at, Kevin Owens being the transition so that Finn Balor could be champion, especially with Hideo Itami not being there. I mean, if Hideo Itami was there, I think we might have seen something different. But,
definitely.
But you needed a call up to really instigate that push. And we saw the same thing with Bayley. You almost had to get rid of Sasha and Charlotte and Becky so that there wasn't any other big name there to focus on. So yeah, with that said, yeah, you would have to call up Jason Jordan, Chad Gable for them to be considered worthy enough for that title shot. And this is about as hyped as I get, by the way. I just wanted to say that because the live chat, specifically Diva Jill, is calling me out for not being hyped enough. But this is about as hyped as I think I'm going to be as long as we've gotten, this more serious and focused Enzo and Kaz, while we've got these other tag teams that are doing great work. The Hype Bros are, while enthusiastic and energetic, are definitely nowhere near the top three.
For a split second, I just started imagining Enzo and Kazarian as part of a tag team.
Yeah, it is hard to say Kaz. I do want to say Kaz.
Enzo and Big Cass. Big Cass.
Big Cass. Big Cass. Okay, well, anyways.
Or Big Cass will work, but it's big. The big is the qualifier there.
Okay.
Kaz is big in Japan, though.
Dude, my French Bulldog's big in Japan.
One of them has been on tour in New Japan. I'm just saying.
Okay.
All right. Well, I'm glad we got that cleared. Let's go ahead and preview NXT Takeover London. Again, the card is Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe in your main event for the NXT Championship. On the bottom of the card, we've got Asuka versus Emma, Baron Corbin versus Apollo Crews. The tag team championships are on the line as Dash and Dawson faces off against Enzo and Big Cass. And the women's championship is on the line as Bayley defends against Nia Jax. So let's start at the bottom. At least, I'm making the mental note that I think this is like the bottom of the card, and that is Asuka versus Emma. Definitely don't deserve it. I think this is a good story, but the title's not on the line, and it's not Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews, which a lot of people are behind at this point. So, and that's also, a main title race match. But Asuka versus Emma, thoughts on the build thus far, which this has been going on since Asuka's debut months ago. Nick, overall, your thoughts on this match and your predictions?
I've been kind of torn just because I'm not ready for this narrative to be over. I think we are kind of building to a handicap match with Asuka versus Emma and Dana. So I really wanted to predict a victory by Emma, but it seems like they're setting up to make Asuka the next contender for the women's title. Spoilers, I think Nia Jax is going to beat Bayley. But, yeah, it just feels like Emma, as much as she's been improving Brutal's a little strong, but she's been showing a meaner side in her matches lately, and I think it's going to be a hell of a match. I think it's going to be a lot more even than we saw with Dana Brooke, but just with the overall women's title picture, I do think Asuka is going to come out of this the winner. And I don't think this will be opening up the show either. I think Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews will be.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one, Nick, for sure. Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews, to me, is the match that has it's got the least amount of my interest. But Asuka versus Emma, I've been loving the build-up. I've been loving the back and forth. And that we don't know really anything about Asuka except when they try to get one over on her, and she just does that smile, that like demented battle royale type smile. It's just like, oh shit's going down. She is going to fuck you up. Asuka is going to defeat Emma, even if Dana Brooke comes to get involved. I think Asuka's got this. She's ready, and yeah, I can't wait to see where they go with her.
Yeah, I agree there. I think Asuka's got this one as well. Just to reiterate what you said there, her reactions, her facial expressions are brilliant. But I think I would like to see this feud going longer, but I think Asuka's next in line for a shot at the title. So I think this is where it ends for that story, and she moves on.
Yeah, I have no arguments here. I'm completely with you guys. Asuka wins. Live chat though, Beanbags is just throwing it out there. I mean, you look at any new talent that's brought in that is given a winning streak of sorts. Beanbags is saying Asuka has to lose at some time, and has to lose sometime, and he thinks that this is going to be that time, but I just can't see it. Not with Emma, not with this. And again, let me clarify. I'm looking at this card, and it's really hard to say like what is the least pushed story or the least awesome match that we're about to see, because that's what this is. I mean, like, everything has been built so well, but at the same time, I don't agree with that sentiment. Yes, Asuka has to lose at some point, but for her to lose against Emma, her second biggest match thus far, I really can't see it, especially because this is still her first feud since she joined NXT. First it was the Brooke side of it, and now it's the Emma side of it. And I think it's too soon. While I do want to see good things from Emma, we are seeing good things with Emma. But her defeating Asuka doesn't necessarily benefit either, because neither are, actively going anywhere from this. They're not going towards the title race. This is just a, interpersonal conflict that they're trying to resolve. And with that, you have to keep Asuka strong. So I'm going to go with Asuka.
Okay, here's a scenario.
Okay.
Asuka wins, but by disqualification, because Dana gets involved. Attacks Asuka in full view of the ref.
But Asuka wins.
By decision, yes.
Okay. Which point?
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
I'm saying that this isn't going to be a squash match like it was with Dana. Emma's going to hold her own, and Dana's going to get involved. It's going to be more of what they have been doing, like when Dana challenged Asuka to come out and face her, and Emma attacked Asuka from behind. And I'm sure that even after they beat up on Asuka a little bit post-match, and they start walking away, Asuka's going to get up and grin at them like anything that those two do can't actually hurt her.
But at the same time, it shouldn't. I mean, theoretically, how they've been building Asuka, she is being primed for a future title shot. I don't know if we can say the same thing for Dana Brooks and Emma.
They've been building up Emma to be more of a threat to Asuka. Like, Emma's the first one to actually take Asuka down. She didn't inflict any lasting damage with that sneak attack, but that's the first time Asuka's really been threatened.
Yeah. Okay. But the prediction's the same. Asuka wins.
Yes.
Okay. Next up, Baron Corbin versus Apollo Crews. Who you got, Nick?
In the curtain jerker, I've got Apollo Crews going over. Baron's kind of held his own in this whole thing, but, there's been no character advancement. He's still the same boring alpha male asshole. Apollo Crews has serioused up some. There have been moments where he's been the same as he was when he debuted, like when he met up with Finn before this week's match, and just reaffirmed his desire that after this is over, after you beat Joe, I want another title match. But when it comes to Baron Corbin, he's developed a more ruthless side. He's developed a little bit of a mean streak, and I think that's what gives him the edge in this contest. I think that's why Apollo's going to win.
In this one, I'm going to go with Apollo. I'm not a big fan of Apollo, but I'm also not a big fan of Corbin. And I think for Apollo to look strong at this point, to be this guy that they were going to give a number one contendership to so quickly, he's got to win. Baron at least has been around for a while to be like a benchmark in a way. So when Apollo beats him, it gives him some legitimacy toward going toward that title.
Yeah, I've got Apollo going over as well. Not the biggest fan of Corbin, but it would appear that they're fast tracking Apollo Crews here. So he's going to take the win, and next up will be the title for him as well.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. I mean, My prediction is also with Apollo Crews, but the idea that they're pushing Apollo more than they're pushing Baron Corbin, I think might not be accurate if you look at the full context of the programming that we're seeing. Now, granted, I did not watch this week's episode of Breaking Ground yet, but it seemed like the first 5 episodes so far. Let me verify that. Has it been 5 episodes? No, I'm sorry. The first 6 episodes did have a heavy focus on Baron Corbin over Apollo. So it's almost like they're giving us reasons why Baron is in the spot that he's in and that he's doing well. So I mean, I wouldn't put it past them to push Baron in this spot, especially if the idea is for Finn to retain. You know, because you do need like that heel dominant force to go up against Finn.
But on the flip side, if one were to possibly go the other way and see Balor lose, then having Apollo win makes a little more sense.
The fact that Baron Corbin is displayed so prominently in Breaking Ground just feels like revisionist history to me, because that hasn't been the story they've told with him on NXT at all, aside from the fact that he's supposed to be a big badass, but for the longest time, NXT wasn't having any of them. And even now, it's more people are tolerating him. It's like, all right, you haven't gone away yet, so we might as well just learn to live with it. I've only watched the first episode of Breaking Ground, but that one player from the Cardinals got more airtime than Apollo Crews did. I don't think you should put a lot of stock in how Breaking Ground is displaying people over NXT.
And I'm definitely not looking at that as my reason for predictions. I mean, I'm with you guys. Apollo Crews wins this match. I'm just saying that I think now that we've seen the other side of, the ongoings of NXT, that, it's almost, it's almost predictable that they would go with with Baron Corbin winning just to keep him in that limelight, in that spot, in that, in the title race overall. I mean, I'm with you. It is almost revisionist history if you consider how we reacted, on this show or in the Facebook group or in any of the conversations that we have with the Fans Talk podcast family. I mean, we aren't necessarily happy with Baron, but with that addition of like his ongoing feud with Prince Pretty behind the scenes, it almost makes him easier to accept and like and understand. And I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there that these predictions are what we think that NXT might be going in. The idea that Apollo Crews is being pushed more than Baron Corbin is what I'm really arguing. I think Baron Corbin is a guy that a Triple H really wants to see showcased.
Yeah, I definitely don't argue with you. Triple H probably really does want Baron Corbin to be a highlight. Maybe if only because Baron Corbin has been built from the ground up in the WWE, and the WWE probably really wants one of those guys to actually make it big.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So from there, we've got the NXT Tag Team Championships on the line. Again, Dash and Dawson defend against Enzo and Big Cass. Is this the time that we finally get a title on Enzo and Big Cass? Nick?
I think it might be. Up till maybe this past week, maybe the week before, I've been predicting a Sami Zayn / Bayley-esque route to the title for them. That it would be a long-term thing, a slow burn where they run through everybody that's kind of stepped over them before now. But I hate to say it, but it is Dash and Dawson. They're not exactly, in terms of NXT, they're not the Ascension. They're not the big, badass crowd favorites. I think the crowd is behind them to a degree, and I certainly love them, but Enzo and Cass are easily the crowd favorites. And as was mentioned this week, they are the longest running tag team in NXT history. They've been around since the reboot. So I have to wonder if maybe they want to kind of deviate from the established babyface road to the title that they've set up and kind of run a different path. You know, kind of like how they edited out all of the long, boring bullshit bits of Daniel Bryan's story and just compress it all for Roman Reigns. Maybe they're trying to take a similarly truncated route with Enzo and Cass.
Well, I'm just going to jump in and Enzo and Cass. I think they're going to win. Like you said, Nick, they're the longest running tag team in NXT right now, and I think they're one of the most entertaining overall. I mean, you could vote for the Vaudevillains. You could vote for anybody really who might entertain you, but they've been consistent. Their gimmick has been entertaining. You know, they've got their catchphrases. They don't need to be said all the time. It doesn't. You know, they're not being crammed down our throats. They're a very natural, fluid team in that aspect as far as their character and gimmick goes. And storyline wise, it's their time. You know, like I said earlier, it's I love the angle that they're family and you take out a member of my family and we're coming after you. This is the time. This is the time where they're going to get these titles and be kind of that benchmark. And I can't wait to see what happens after they take those titles, because I think it's going to really change the flavor of the NXT tag team division.
Yeah, I've got Enzo and Cass as well. I think it's their time now. I mean, they've been there for years, and I think they're at their peak now in NXT. And so I just totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, I can't see them not giving them the titles. But I mean, when do you think they'll get their call up?
That's a really good question. I can't see them getting called up ahead of the Vaudevillains or Gable and Jordan. I think they might have a somewhat lengthy reign as tag team champions.
Yeah. Just real quick though, I don't know what value you think the Vaudevillains have on the main roster, but it can't be much more than Santino's role.
They've got a lot more going on in the ring than Santino ever did. And we've seen that they're not going to be the same guys that Corey Graves makes fun of for being hipsters. It's more than hinted at, but they haven't fully established the heel turn. Like, Jordan and Gable extended the hands for sportsmanship. They did the manly thing, and the Vaudevillains walked away. And I think we've been seeing a little bit of a hint, or a few hints dropped on Twitter, more from Simon Gotch than from Aiden English. But I think they're going to be going back to the villain side of things, and I guess we're going to have to wait and see with what we actually get. But, you know, the Vaudevillains have been around for a little while. They've got presence. They've got a following. So of all the teams in NXT right now, I see them getting called up before Enzo and Cass.
Man, I don't know. I would have to imagine that Vince McMahon would see more value in Enzo and Big Cass because they've got that vocal presence about them, and the Vaudevillains, on the other hand, are just so niche heavy. I mean, like yes, they're appealing, but they're still like a huge gimmick. They're very gimmick heavy, and
what are Enzo and Cass if not gimmick heavy?
Well,
But Enzo and Cass are more versatile in their gimmick as far as compared to the Vaudevillains, where once you get past the old-timey shtick, it's a lot harder to put them give them a role and have them in a place.
Yeah, I mean, Enzo and Cass are real people, but they are good on the mic, and yeah, they have that, new age outlaw type intro to them, but that's not necessarily what they are stuck with. The Vaudevillains, like, that's it. That's their gimmick. Their gimmick is these old timey wrestlers, and I just can't see them getting the time of day when you have the Usos, when you have the Lucha Dragons and New Day, when they're generally more of the standard. The standard type of wrestling teams. Vaudevillains are such a weird thing to be on the national scene.
Like I said, we're going to have to wait and see for a better picture. We're going to have to see what this heel turn brings us. Because I can almost guarantee it's going to be different from the Vaudevillains that we saw against Lucha Dragons. But I see... Actually, to be honest, I don't see where y'all are coming from with the idea that Enzo and Cass have a more complete gimmick. Just because we've seen a more serious side of them, that doesn't say well-rounded to me.
Well,
and
but
when you take away the gimmicks, the Vaudevillains are a much better team in the ring.
But there's a difference between like a regional, like a regionalism with your, New Jersey type thing like that. I think that they can play better with that. But like two guys that wrestle and act as if they're in the 1920s, that's entirely different. And I know Beanbags in the live chat is like saying, what are the New Day? They are a gimmick, but at the same time, they're real guys. They're real guys living in this time. And I never really get that same vibe from the Vaudevillains.
They're not, to just say they're old timey is kind of simplifying things. They are all things manly. That's the whole gimmick. Yeah, they come out to the old style carnival intro, but in backstage interviews, that's not what they're all about. They're very articulate. They're very gentlemanly. At least they have been. I imagine they'll keep the articulate side of things once they've turned heel. But yeah, this isn't, we're not going to be seeing any more of the silent cartoon, look what we're going to do, the Lucha Dragons thing. We haven't seen that for a long time now.
Except for, to me, I think like you will see it because they will turn them into the replacement for Santino. Like that little joke team.
I just don't see their gimmick working on the main roster at all. Like, I think if they go up, I think they're just going to fade really quickly. I think people will get bored of it.
I mean, look at the Ascension. The Ascension are a perfect example of that, where you've got like that Egyptian mythology type of backing to them, and that didn't get over. People they didn't look at what the gimmick actually was. They looked at what it reminded them of. Well, and that was the Road Warriors. When you look at Simon Gotch and, I mean, like when you look at the Vaudevillains in general, you look at, you think about that old timey thing, which is, it's cool in certain settings. It's definitely cool on the indie scene because no one else is doing that. But I don't think it would work on the main roster.
Well, that's the thing. They didn't bring the Ascension up as they were. They completely changed that gimmick for the main roster. They just changed him to Legion of Doom 2.0. That's the narrative they told. It's not just what the crowd saw. That was the package. That was the product that they were selling. With the Vaudevillains, it's entirely possible that the WWE will bastardize that and do something completely stupid with them like they did with the Ascension. But yeah, you can't look at what the Ascension has become and say, that's the exact same thing that the Vaudevillains are and what will happen.
Okay. All right. Well, overall, we all agree. We all agree that Enzo and Big Cass will win the titles. Looking at the live chat, I think we were all on the same page there as well. So yeah, but Nick, just tying this back into everything you said, it is disappointing to think that Dash and Dawson would lose the title so quickly just because of how well they work together and how nice that change of scenery was to have a team like that take the titles and move forward with them. So yeah, I'm with you there. Women's Championship is on the line. Bayley defends against Nia Jax. I went on record a few weeks back saying there was no way Nia Jax was going to be moved into the title picture this early on, this quickly. But that is what happened. So, overall, Nick, do you see them continuing that push forward with Nia Jax becoming your next champion?
I do. I could maybe wish that she had a little bit more polish on her, that we had a little bit more time to get adjusted and see her firmly establish herself in the division. But under these circumstances, she's already made a pretty solid impact, just how definitively she's won her matches. They haven't been exactly against A-list talent as far as NXT continuity goes, but in each match, each opponent got a little bit of offense in against her, and it was just like bouncing off of Superman as far as effect went. So this is going to be a really tough obstacle for Bayley to overcome, and I think in this first in-ring meeting, I don't think Bayley's going to overcome that.
Yeah, and real quick, I mean, you're right on the overall thought that like Nia Jax has been so dominant in everyone that she's faced. For her to face like an actual NXT wrestler that's over and lose, that would be hard to swallow. That would be hard to figure out like where she actually stands. If she's just better than your generally no-name jobbers, but she's not good enough to be, competent against talent like Bayley. It would be an odd thing, like an odd message to sell. But Joe, overall, do you agree with that, or do you think Bayley retains?
I'm thinking Bayley's going to retain. I'm not saying Nia Jax or Nia Jax. Yes, I keep screwing that up. Yeah. I'm not saying that she's not going to be pretty dominant in this match. And then you have the fuck's her name? The bimbo. You don't have bimbo around.
Eva Marie.
Yeah, whatever the fuck her name is. Who cares?
Eva Marie.
Yeah. The blow up doll for the genetic jackhammer. Right.
Eva Marie.
Right. So, seriously, and like she's going to end up looking like the South Park version of Caitlyn Jenner. Seriously, that's how she comes across to me. But I mean, I was saying there's not going to be distraction there, but I think there's a little too much between the bimbo and Nia Jax that there's going to be allowed to be a title change. There's some tension there, and if it's not Eva Marie with the title, I don't think that tandem is going to fully work when there's a title in that picture. If anything, Nia Jax gets disqualified for being too vicious, like she doesn't obey the ref when the ref tells her to back off, to the point where the match is lost at that point.
But she's never done that thus far.
But she's never been in the world or the Divas title pick or the women's title picture at this. She hasn't had that need to be that ferocious. I think that would help define the Nia Jax character. And yeah, I think I think Bayley getting the crap kicked out of her but still retaining and then trying to play that injured side and trying to keep going with this big beast trying to hunt her down. To me, that's an intriguing story.
So you think that, again, because we compare Bayley's rise to the title to be very similar to how they pushed Sami Zayn. So you see the same thing continuing to happen where Sami Zayn, continued to get beat by these bigger, more dominant, wrestlers, or at least, more ferocious wrestlers. You see the same thing happening with Bayley here, that Nia Jax is going to be made to be this unstoppable force, but somehow Bayley's going to retain.
Yeah, I think it's going to be some type of DQ thing where Nia just doesn't stop. And if Bayley gets injured, but she's still trying to defend her title, while Nia's still hunting her down, but she's still entertaining matches and barely winning matches. In the meantime, it'll show her as a strong competitor, even if she's injured, with that beast coming, and then Nia can beat her and take the title, almost in a way that Kevin Owens did to Sami Zayn. But at least it's going to give her more time, so it's not the same story.
I think it should be mentioned that we've already seen Bayley face adversity like that against Alexa Bliss. Not just Alexa Bliss, but the Blake and Murphy factor. She fought a lot of that just after getting her hand jacked up by Sasha Banks, and there was only one match where Bayley had any backup against the three of them. So I think that fulfills the idea that Bayley can battle back against adversity and overwhelming odds, at least from a storytelling perspective for the WWE.
Well, and look past that and also consider, when she faced off against Eva Marie, and it was very obvious that, they were trying to push the story that the, WWE corporate was trying to, put the odds against Bayley and back the, the chosen one almost. So, and she battled against those odds. So, yeah.
Yeah, you don't get bigger than the corporate juggernaut.
I keep going back and forward on this. Like I've got my pick down as Nia Jax, but I don't know. It's tough. I mean, do you think we get interference from Eva Marie at all?
Yeah, and that's something that's being talked about in the live chat. I think it's definitely possible.
I think if I've got Nia Jax to win, and I think she only wins if there's interference. But because I need to make a pick, I'll go with Nia Jax.
But does Eva Marie help Nia Jax win, even though Nia Jax couldn't help Eva win?
I think Eva's going to try and get involved, and Nia's going to tell her to sit her ass down. Kind of like she did this week when Eva started off on the mic. I wonder if maybe Nia stepping in, taking over, and saying, I don't need you to talk for me, was kind of a spur-of-the-moment thing so that you could actually get the promo done, because crowd wasn't having any of Eva Marie. But I can kind of see creative backstage thinking, okay, yeah, maybe this is where we want to go. Like, maybe it made sense at the time to have Eva and Nia kind of team up initially, but now that Eva Marie is going to be the one outside looking in, out at ringside, there's really not an area where Nia needs Eva Marie.
Yeah, and this is being discussed back and forth in the live chat. Overall, this is definitely a toss-up match. I mean, you can go either way. Personally, I'm going to go with Bayley retaining. I know that contradicts what I said before as far as Nia Jax, like, defeating all of these, jobbers, and once she finally got to, a quality competitor, she fails. It would be odd, but you've got that Eva Marie thing. Maybe Eva causes Nia Jax to lose. That's another idea being put out there in the live chat. I don't know. It's just an odd situation. Acer in the live chat is just, is reminding us that the Nia Jax is still very new. To put the title on her when, she hasn't totally been in NXT for very long and doesn't have that indie background like a Kevin Owens had. She doesn't have that type of backing to her. I just can't see it. I can't see moving that quickly. I've been wrong before with this because I didn't think she was going to get the title match in the first place. But yeah, I'm going to go with Bayley retaining. All right, again, we are previewing NXT Takeover London. It is happening later on today if you're listening to this on demand through whatever podcast catcher you're listening through, whether it's iTunes or Stitcher or Android if you're pulling from the RSS feed on the website. But the main event is Finn Balor versus Samoa Joe. Samoa Joe lately seems to have been able to get the upper hand on Finn. Is that going to change at TakeOver? Nick?
This is one I can see going either way. On the one hand, the WWE is such a big fan of 50 booking overall. So to have Finn Balor get choked out in the middle of the ring on 3 separate occasions and then have Finn battle back and win in, I guess, hometown adjacent, I could see the appeal to that. That would be a very strong way to wrap up that story. But Samoa Joe has just been so bloody dominant. And I don't know. I've been getting the impression that Finn has been stagnant of late. He hasn't really shown us any real character development outside of the Demon. The Demon evolves with each takeover, but Finn himself does not. Having the title get taken away from him would be an incredibly strong impetus to change up his game. And we know Sami Zayn's coming soon. Having the crowd just gravitate towards Sami coming back would be another really strong motivator for Finn to change up his game and possibly turn heel. Looking forward over the next couple months, I think it just makes a lot more sense to have Joe be champion. If only as a transitional champion, but yeah, I think in London, Joe's going to walk out with a title.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Joe is walking out with the title. I think Finn battling back and doing a great showing against Joe was brilliant. But I think Samoa Joe is going to walk out with it. That gives Apollo Crews' win as the curtain jerker some validity that he can try and get through it, or he can try and make a run for the title. Sami Zayn against Samoa Joe, I think, would be some phenomenal work. Or even a Balor rematch going forward, I think would be. I think that would be entertaining. I think that's where they need to go. Even Finn Balor versus Sami Zayn versus Samoa Joe, as Garvin and I saw when we went to see NXT live in Cleveland. It was fantastic to see Joe working in a 4-way between. So it was
Zayn, Balor, and Breeze.
No, Balor, Breeze, and Owens against Joe. Yeah, that was the 4-way. Yeah, I mean, like, I know he can work it. We've seen him work for years in TNA, ROH. He's a guy that they can feel safe putting the title on. So I think, yeah, Samoa Joe is going to walk out in London.
Yeah. Again, this is another 50-50 one, isn't it? I've got Finn down as winning this, but it's hard. I think. I mean, I've put Finn down because I think they're going to go down and have Sami Zayn against Finn at some point in the future for the title. But again, about calling up, is Joe not due for a call up soon? Are they going to put the title on him short term and then take it off him and put him up? I think that's what you were really implying there.
Well, I mean, they did it to Owens, so
that's true.
I mean, it's not out of the question to put it shortly on them.
Yeah, I definitely do see the appeal of having Zayn and Balor battle over the title. Yeah, it's a very attractive option. The thing I see making that happen is Balor turning heel. And, beating Joe, the way he's been such a monster heel of late, I don't know. It'd just be really abrupt, I think, to have Zayn come in and just immediately have Balor turn heel. Again, just very abrupt. I think we will eventually see that happen, though.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that I think are hoping for that Bullet Club style group to happen in NXT, specifically, because Balor has been pushing the Balor Club side of things. He was one of the major focal points of the Bullet Club when he was a part of it. So, I definitely like the idea. You need to have Balor as a heel type to make that work. But yeah, I don't know. I think as far as this match goes, though, historically, if you look at all of the bigger names that went to NXT to take on the title, whether it's Neville versus and I'm failing to remember what his name was in WWE, but the Funkasaurus.
Brodus Clay.
Oh, Brodus Clay.
Brodus Clay. Brodus Clay came down. We were thinking they're finally allowing him to be that badass and that guy that he could be, that wrestler that he could be in NXT, and he loses. Then you've got, you look at any of the other big names that have come down, and they generally have lost.
Do you think Joe's going to be the new Funkasaurus?
Oh, God.
What I'm saying is, historically, it's not about. It's
Can't wait to see that.
It's not about the veteran at that point. It's about the talent that they're trying to make seem like a bigger deal in NXT to build them up. So, I mean, the thing is at least for me, the reason why this is so tough, this match is so tough for me, is because much like Nick, we have been watching TNA for so long, and in TNA, we always wanted to see this type of Samoa Joe be pushed. And we saw glimpses of it. There were moments in time where Samoa Joe would get this type of illumination on TV, but it was so inconsistent. And for him to be pushed in this top title race with a chance to get the title, that's something that we've wanted to see happen, over the last 10 or so years that he was in TNA. And for whatever reason, specifically over the last 4 years, he was never really given that opportunity, even though he for sure deserved it. Whether it's being over with the crowd or being great in the ring, he was always looked over. So, for me, I want to see Joe win this because I think this will propel him to bigger and better things, being called up to the main roster and going after the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. I mean, that's a thing that I want to see. But at the same time, you look at how NXT has been booked historically, and I cannot see them giving the title to Samoa Joe. So my pick is Finn Balor retains.
Do you think, though, that Samoa Joe is in the same class as a Titus O'Neil, as a Brodus Clay, as a Tyson Kidd? Because those guys are all, the C-list or D-list guys from the main roster trying to establish a foothold in NXT and be big fish in little pond.
Yeah.
Whereas Samoa Joe kind of came in from the outside. I definitely get what you're saying, those not traditional NXT guys usually don't make it big in NXT. They don't have a strong record of success, but none of them have been as over as Samoa Joe has. Almost to a man, none of them have had the crowd support that Samoa Joe has.
I think what puts Samoa Joe in that category for me is just age. The thing is that, you look at him compared to Kevin Owens. They had that similar hype to them, except for Kevin Owens is so young and there's such an upside to him. But with Samoa Joe, what's his career length? Maybe another 2 years, 3, 4 at tops, you know? And I think that's what puts him into that category. It's not necessarily that he's at the same level as a Titus O'Neil or a Brodus Clay or a Tyson Kidd, but it's that how much can you push him onto the main roster that it leaves a lasting impact?
You're making the assumption that Joe will go onto the main roster, though.
I am.
What if he doesn't?
Well, no, I'm sorry. In that argument, I am. But I'm arguing against that. I don't see him going to the main roster. I see him as being a veteran in NXT, and because of that, I don't see him taking the title.
So, wait. So because he's staying in NXT, he will not have the title.
Maybe that's contradictory. Let me think about this. Let me think of how I want to word this. I mean, if he won the title, I would think that would be a push for him to go up to the main roster and for them to see value in what he can do. But the thing is about NXT is the value is these young guys who never really got that opportunity in the spotlight. I mean, you could say what you will about ROH. There's so many people that rave about ROH, Ishmael Roberts specifically. But it's not the big time. TNA is the big time, and he has had that opportunity. If TNA was such a big deal, James Storm would be in a much better place than he is right now in NXT. And they would be trying to push him as more of a credible element in their upcoming game plan. Samoa Joe, I think, is more at that point where, yes, he has a similar hype that Kevin Owens did, but because he has such a short length of career ahead of him. Yes. Okay. Nick's posting in a live chat that national TV equals the big time. And yes, that is exactly how I feel. Mm-hmm. That's exactly how I feel. And the thing is that Samoa Joe has been there. He has done as much as you can, and he's old. I mean, he's what? 36, 37?
Yeah, 36.
And sadly, and I'm sorry, Joe, but you don't last in a really heavy impact sport for too long after that.
I'm gonna fuck you up.
I mean, I'm a few years away from that, but even I acknowledge that, you know, you look at NFL, you look at anything, and it's rare for guys to last longer than that. So for me, yeah, I can't see Samoa Joe being called up or being used in any other capacity than where he is right now. And that is a veteran making other younger guys that have a bigger upside look better.
Okay. In the WWE, you're absolutely right. Once you hit your mid-30s, it's starting to get to the end of the road for you. Like, Titus O'Neil is like 38, 39. Mm-hmm. Actually, he might have hit 40 by now. And a lot of talk of retirement. Mark Henry's over that hill as his Big Show. But, yeah, by and large, in the WWE, that's not the case. The Big Show and Mark Henry are outliers in a huge way. Outside of the WWE, that's not the case. You can regularly see guys over 40, over 50 even, wrestling pretty regularly, like down in Mexico, in Japan, on the indie scene. Granted, on the indie scene, it's kind of because they have to, because they don't have any other options, but Samoa Joe has not been in the WWE system. He hasn't been in that machine where you've got 5 shows a week and you're on the road every day of the year. He's kind of had a more limited schedule where he can take better care of himself. So, yeah, it is a situation that you have to consider that he is a veteran, and I absolutely agree. He should be making the younger guys look better. But I'm more of the mind that he can do that and be champion. He can be that guy. Like Arjo said earlier, he's a guy that everybody in the business knows. If you give that man a belt, he will hold it well.
Right.
So I look at it as a gold standard situation where if you can beat Joe for a title, you're going to go places. You have the capability to go places.
My argument with that, though, is does that have a place in NXT?
Yes. I think with a guy where it's not exactly proven, or maybe somebody needs to go to the next level, that Joe is a great guy to have that sort of feud with. Finn Balor, you could make the argument that Finn Balor is in that situation where he really needs to find another aspect, or he needs to showcase another aspect of himself. I think he's got it. He showed a lot of different sides over in Japan, with the Bullet Club and even before that. But in NXT, he hasn't. So I think trying to get the title back from Joe would be a good way to showcase that. And maybe with Sami Zayn as well, returning from so long off the shelf, that'd be a good guy to go up against as well.
Okay. Steven, any thoughts on this? I don't even know if it's an argument. We just seem to be talking around ourselves. But, you have any thoughts on here?
Okay. Sorry, man.
All right. Well, I think that's enough then. NXT Takeover takes place on Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. A majority, or at least us as in Joe and I. Nick, you might try to watch it live. Steven, you live in another time zone, so it's more applicable for you. But I think a lot of us are going to skip out on the live showing, try to watch it a little bit later on in the day. But this is NXT TakeOver London. Our picks, as far as majority goes, we see Asuka defeating Emma, Apollo Crews defeating Baron Corbin, Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy defeating Dash and Dawson to become the new NXT Tag Team Champions, and the rest is up in the air. I mean, it could go either way with Bayley retaining or Nia Jax becoming your new champion, as well as Finn Balor retaining or Samoa Joe becoming your new NXT champion. So overall, though, it should be a great show, and we're definitely looking forward to it. If you want to watch it live, feel free to jump into the Facebook group or with the rest of the Squared Circle of Trust over in the Slack community. We're going to have the live chat there. I will be partaking in a live chat right around 6 p.m. After I get home from work, and that's 6 p.m. Eastern. So if you don't want to watch it live, you want to watch it a couple hours later with me, feel free to join the live chat as well. That'll be hosted on the Slack community, which is only available for Squared Circle of Trust members. So, any final thoughts before we head out?
Go ahead, Steve.
No, sorry. It was just to say thanks for having me on. It's been fun, and if anybody who's thinking about contributing via Patreon and hasn't done so yet, then go for it and get to join the Slack community. Get to do things like this. It's well worth it.
Yeah, thanks, Stephen, for stepping up. Not only on the Patreon side, but joining us in the conversation. It was a joy talking with you.
Thanks.
Please, WWE, more Corey Hollis and John Schuyler, because PWX needs to be represented.
Okay. I really don't have any final thoughts, but I do want to send a shout out to everyone that joined us in the live chat and stuck through. We recorded 2 episodes in a row. Both were right around an hour apiece. So definitely thank you. Ishmael, Robert, Diva Jill, Beanbags, Acer. There was quite a few names in the first hour, which was FTPW 295. So thank you so much for joining. We record every episode of FTPW live on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. So if you have a chance, if you have Tuesday night open, don't have anything to do, jump into live chat and talk some wrestling with us. Always fun. This series, as well as the rest of the podcasts released through fanstalkpodcast.com, are supported exclusively by our Patreon subscribers. You can subscribe today for as little as $1 a month to receive early access to our content, as well as get your ears on some exclusive content that we produce throughout the month. We do actually do a exclusive Squared Circle of Trust episode. We try to get at least one a month. Sometimes we can handle two. Just kind of depends on the schedule and what's all going on. But you do get early access to other series that we're doing, such as Fans Talk TNA, as well as Suburban Mysteries, Wrestling with Feelings. Hopefully in the near future, we're going to be doing some more series for you. Sean, who you heard a few weeks back, he's also doing his own series. It's a monthly series called Fans Talk Fantasy Booking, where he takes a look at a top 5, whether that's top 5 heels or top 5 things that should change in WWE to bring us more into, a confident space. So definitely check that out if you haven't already. 2 episodes have been released. We're going to be recording another one coming up, which will be released very soon as well. Definitely, we require your support to continue this going. For Nick, Joe, Steven, my name is Garvin, and we will see you next Tuesday. Later. Fans Talk Pro Wrestling is part of the Fans Talk podcast family. It can be found at fanstalkprowrestling.com. The Fans Talk podcast family is a subsidiary of Tiger Creative, LLC.